Let's bring in the Deputy Director of Serap, Kolawole Dare, who is joining me live from Zoom. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 1. Well, let us try to understand why you disagree with the NBC's directive.
Thank you very much. The issues are pretty simple, and it's not about the right of the NBC to regulate the media industry or broadcast stations or to make the code. It is about the use of the code and its interpretation in this instance. And we've seen from the letter dated 7th July to broadcast stations that the grounds of the NBC are the ways the issues have been presented and discussed, or call it analyzed, on the broadcast stations, that is newspaper headlines. And this letter and the wording of the letter itself, including the provisions relied on, which is allegedly section 5.4.1 and 3 of the NBC code itself, violates section 39 of the Constitution, which, as we all know, guarantees the right to freedom of expression. And the issues being bandied around as the basis for this directive, being a security matter, does not justify the directives of the NBC. The words used in the letter itself, and even the wordings of the NBC code relied on, are too vague, and they can be misapplied given the circumstances, particularly with the antecedent of the NBC that we've seen time and again as wielded the big stick unlawfully against media houses who are just carrying out their lawful duty. And that is why we've approached the court. This is pursuant to a letter we've written to the NBC, even to the President and the Minister of Information, to withdraw that unlawful directive. And so we've approached the court, and for the court, the judiciary being the last of the common man, to interpret the section that's now the Constitution and even Article 9 of the African Charter in favor of Nigerians, because this directive of the NBC conflicts with those constitutional provisions.
Let's try to understand it this way. Did you try to look at it from another angle, especially when it comes to the fact that, while the mainstream media might understand what it's called journalism, true journalism, being professional in whatever it is that they do, but if you look at the blogs and some of the online media who are peddling fake news, we know how all these things are really led to so much ethnic tension and mutual suspicion. Do you not see maybe this is the reason the NBC is giving out this directive?
Definitely, and one cannot infer that from the letter, which is dated 7th July from the NBC. From that letter itself, and it's very dangerous to try to distinguish between who are the media practitioners, either the traditional media brokers, the print media, and those who operate majorly online. That division may necessarily affect the freedom of expression. And in context, look at this. Looking at the directive of the NBC itself, at the wordings and what they describe, for instance, as too many glamorizing divisive rhetoric and security issues. These are not clearly either in the letter or even the NBC code itself. And the words that are being used to prevent Nigerians' access to information from reporters and media houses to do their job. So in essence, who determines on each basis when there are too many details, for instance, what will constitute too many details? What will constitute glamorizing? And so these are the things that should be looked at and considered. Particularly, derogation from the freedom of expression as provided in Section 39 of the Constitution requires some very specific details for those rights to be breached in any way. And that we're talking of legality, necessity, and proportionality. And what we are saying is that this instance, there is no way those conditions are met by the NBC.
Right. Thank you so much for your insight into this. We'll see how it pans out at the end of the day. It's very, very much important. Serap, Kolawole Dare, thank you so much for speaking with us on TVC News.
Thank you very much.